the most popular show in Philadelphia sports. Football, the most popular. All because of you. You guys, without a doubt, are blowing this show up, and I thank you. Please hit the like button. I can't thank you enough. By the way, 4 hours, powered by our great friends at BetUS. We appreciate you checking out their website. It's our betting house. We hope you go there as well. There's so much stuff to get to. So much stuff to get to today. Obviously, the news story of the day is Robert Saleh of the New York Jets has been fired. Just to give you a little insight in what Boomer Esiason told me, is that Robert Saleh last night was putting his game plan together for the coaching staff, walked in this morning, was in his office, and Woody Johnson, the owner of the Jets, walked right by Joe Douglas's office, the general manager of the team, didn't even tell him what he was going to do, walked in and fired Robert Saleh and said, "You're out." And said it like that, "You're out." Robert Saleh jumped up behind his desk and reportedly got into a back and forth with the owner of the New York Jets, and it was a screaming match, and security had to escort Robert Saleh out of the Jets facility. It got so contentious that their version of Big Dom had to escort the former head coach, Robert Saleh, out of the building. Hey, I may say all these things about Jeffrey Lurie, but I'll tell you what, the New York Jets are the prime example of dysfunction. And you know what? I think there's more teams in the National Football League. David Tepper, this guy here, the Bidwells in Arizona. All over the National Football League, you got shit like this. The owners in Tennessee. Look at how bad the McCaskies and the Hallises are now after the old man died. Look how bad that situation's been. I think there's more organizations like that. Look at Stephen Ross in Miami with the Dolphins. Okay? I mean, hey, by the way, I wouldn't mind Robert Saleh as the defensive coordinator of the Philadelphia Eagles next year. He is a whale of a coach. I would love to have him in Philly. Can you imagine having him and John Gruden as your coaches? You'd have the dynamic you have in Kansas City. You'd have a spectacular D coordinator in Robert Saleh. And on top of that, you'd have John Gruden, one of the best minds in pro football history. How's that for a coaching staff? How's that for a staff? The Jets are a shitty organization. It's why I goof on them. Fireman Ed and Joe Namath. I mean, you're kidding me, right? Hey, by the way, you want to hear something fucked up about the Jets? If the Jets beat the Bills on Sunday, they're in first place. Why would you fire the guy? Complete dysfunction. Complete dysfunction. And because the Jets got embarrassed overseas, and because Woody Johnson was the ambassador to England, this guy had a cow. That shows you the knee-jerk reaction of so many stupid owners in the league that they don't know football. That's a dumb fire, man. It wasn't the defensive issue that the team fell apart. The problem with the Jets is the quarterback and the offense. Holy shit. Got to be kidding me. But I'm not shocked. It's the Jets. Who would have thought the best football team in New York now is the Giants? The Giants have not near the roster the Jets have. By the way, stop with this shit. Aaron Rodgers wanted Robert Saleh out. That's dumb. For what? A less experienced, defensive-minded guy? Hey, I could see if Nathaniel Hackett got the head coaching job, but he didn't. They gave it to the same guy with the same mentality as Robert Saleh. They didn't elevate. The interim guy's Robert Saleh's number one guy. I mean, how ridiculous. Look at Jay. Sileo has no sources. Well, you must be fucking new to the show, dickbag. You must be new to the show. Every source comes on this program, whether it's a head coach or general manager. Okay? Or it's Boomer Esiason, or it's Phil Simms. It doesn't matter. Hey, Jay, dude, and no one knows who you are. No one knows who you are. Congratulations. Go to your corner now. You'll be there for the rest of the time. By the way, please hit the like button. You guys all know who come on this program. Rodgers would have ruined the Eagles. Aaron Rodgers would have never chose the Eagles. They would have never chose them. I mean, hey, how about that? Hey, Jason, as soon as he walked in, he stood up and he said, "Are you kidding me?" Completely ambushed is the words that he had. Completely ambushed. Crazy. Crazy. By the way, Kansas City last night was playing Steph Curry football last night. I mean, that stuff was just absolutely stupid watching them toy with the New Orleans Saints last night. Holy shit, man. Kansas City's just toying with you now. I mean, I don't even know who they're. Juju Smith-Schuster sucks. And this guy looks like he's a frontline receiver again. He sucks. And they're okay. And there you have it last night. Okay? I mean, are you kidding me, man? They were just toying last night with the Saints. Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and Steve Spagnuolo, absolutely insane. That was something else. May I start the program out by doing this? I hate to do this, and I'm going to say it. And you know what, guys? This is maybe walking back on a topic and going back on a topic here. But can I ask you one thing? Do you think the firing of Andy Reid is the biggest mistake that Jeffrey Lurie has ever made? Do you? I do. That's got to be his biggest regret. Andy still wanted to coach. Now, whether Andy wanted out and he wanted just to get a new start, I can't think he wanted to leave. Don't you think that that's Jeffrey Lurie's biggest regret, is firing Andy Reid? Andy Reid may pass Belichick as the greatest coach in pro football history and the most wins of all time. It's hard not to think the Chiefs won't three-peat. I know. Tony, I know. You're not wrong. But I'm asking you, don't you think that's his biggest regret? Is firing Andy Reid? Right? I mean, that's got to be his biggest regret. You fired potentially the greatest coach in NFL history. Last night, watching him deal with Mahomes, remember something. Patrick wasn't the number one overall selection. Nobody. Hey, dude, there were people that thought Deshaun Watson was better than him. And John Dorsey, who was there in Kansas City, convinced Andy Reid that this is the guy, not Watson or Mitchell Trubisky. Do you remember that? That's what that was. There was a debate. Shannon Sharpe and Chris Carter said Mahomes will never win in this league and that Watson will win multiple Super Bowls before Mahomes even gets to the playoffs. And Reid got convinced by John Dorsey to take Patrick Mahomes. Forrest goes like this. Hey, 14 seasons, 0 rings. Last year, we were barely 500. Okay, Forrest, do you think Jeffrey Lurie regrets firing Andy Reid? So Forrest is telling you he doesn't regret firing Andy Reid. Is that what you're saying? I'm assuming by that post, that's what you're saying. That's what you're saying? I mean, that's what you're saying. Is that it was the right move? Andy got better in Kansas City? No, he didn't. Andy had a better player in Kansas City at quarterback. McNabb wasn't as good as him, or wasn't the winner he was. It's the biggest regret in the history of the Eagle franchise is firing Andy Reid. Has to be. You fired a Hall of Fame coach for who? Nick Sirianni? Chip Kelly? Is that so? Wait a minute. You fired Andy Reid for Chip Kelly. That was the guy who took over, right? Are you fucking high? So that was the right move. Andy Reid for Chip Kelly. Forrest is a dumbass. Chip Kelly, Andy Reid. Okay. Let me ask you this. Would Andy Reid have won the Super Bowl in 22 if he was the head coach of the Eagles? Instead of facing him? Right? Who knows? What do you mean, who knows? Are you crazy? He beat you in 20. He beat you in 22 to win the Super Bowl. That's got to be Jeffrey Lurie's biggest regret is the firing of Andy Reid. Watching him last night on the sidelines, who's to say he wouldn't have got better in Philly? You think Andy Reid would have won that Super Bowl in 17 also? Doug was a protege. Right? You just watch what he did last night and where his career's going. He's got a better quarterback, Sills. Okay. Not anybody thought that when they drafted him. Wow. Eagles can't get their coach right. Guy wins you one, you fire him. Guy's going to go on to be the greatest coach of all time, you fire him. And you keep Nick. Help me out on this one. Help me out on this one. You keep Nick and fire Doug and Andy. You know, we're talking about the Jets' dysfunction. Help me out on that. Bob, help me out on that one. You keep Nick and you fire Doug and you fire Andy for one bad season. Help me out on that. Sills, Lurie's been trying to find his next Andy Reid since he pulled the plug. That's why he selects young first-time head coaches. Absolutely. He's trying to recreate the mistake that he made. It's a great take by Bob. It's a great take by Bob. You fired the greatest coach potentially, the second or third greatest coach in pro football history. And you're watching him elevate Kansas City. And he could be doing that same thing still in Philly. Seals, do you have any idea how many players Eagles got rid of who went on to have productive careers because we've never had proper coaching. You've never been able to develop. You've never been able to develop. Please hit the like button, guys. Okay? All right. Our top 10 NFL teams are today. Our top 10 NFL quarterbacks, MVP candidates. And let's get into the topic here. How many people believe that this Cleveland Browns team on Sunday is a chance for the Eagles to right the ship with their inconsistent play? How many people believe that on Sunday? I heard Xander and John talking. Cleveland's not very good. Okay. So again, here we go. There's no excuses, right? There's no excuses for you. Is that right? You're getting Lane, AJ, and Devontae back. Right? You have no excuses Sunday. None. By the way, somebody tell me what the point spread is. This is a layup game Sunday, right? It's a layup game for the Eagles on Sunday. Okay? Man, what now that we are going to get Brown, Smitty, and Lane back, there should be no reason why we don't walk away from the game with a dub. 7.8.5. I'm taking the Browns. And the points. 8.5. I'm taking the Browns. I can tell you that on a Monday and a Tuesday. I'm taking the Browns in the 8.5. Shit, you haven't shown me even with those guys you could score a ton of points. Or keep people off the scoreboard. I'm clearly taking the Browns in the 8.5. You're almost going to give me 10 points. That number will probably go up higher. I'll definitely, I guarantee you by game day, that number's at 9. And I'll take the Browns in 9. Okay? Katsu. Seals, you know better. There's no layup games, especially with what they've shown us. Anthony, thanks for the super chats. All go to the top. Jim Schwartz is going to blitz us every down. He knows. And I agree. I think he's going to bring a lot of pressure, and they're going to bring a lot of multiple fronts. Okay? Hurts can't read a defense. Watch the Browns disguise the hell out of him. And, discuss the hell out of him. Yeah. So how do we look at Reddick's situation now? Both the player and the organization fucked up, including the Jets. Everyone lost in that. Mostly Reddick's fault. Howie's second for not righting the ship and gambling with Huff. This will be the first game that we score in the first quarter and win by double digits. Okay? With your defense, really? All right. Hey, how about this? Eduardo, I believe your offense is going to play better, but what gives you the satisfaction of knowing that your defense is going to play better? What gives you that optimism that your defense is going to be better? Because the Browns sucked? Okay. Now, and by the way, who are the wide receivers for Cleveland? Is it Judy and Amari Cooper? Are those the two receivers they have? Who covers them? You couldn't you could barely cover the Atlanta Falcon receivers. Sills, the Saleh overreaction should open the door for Lurie should Nick screw up Sunday. Xander said that in my pre-conversation to the show. Absolutely. How come Clint Hurt can't develop a defensive line? How come your defensive linemen are not who they thought they were when you drafted them? Develop defensive linemen. You're under the assumption they're great, senor. Just because they're drafted 13th and 9 don't mean they're great. You're assuming they're great because you're giving Howie the benefit of the. You see right here? Senor's giving Howie the benefit of the doubt. Well, how come the coaches can't develop Jordan Davis? So wait a minute. Tracy Rocker, who's now the defensive line coach in Houston. How's Houston doing, by the way? Okay, I'm under the assumption Clint Hurt, well, he is. That's like saying a batting instructor is going to turn Bryce Harper around. It's dumb. Hey, I'll tell you what, Tracy Rocker's doing a pretty good job in Houston right now, isn't he? I mean, what are they, 4-1? Isn't it funny the coaches that you fired are all doing pretty well? Tracy Rocker's 4-1 in Houston, and Brian Johnson is a quarterback coach plus passing coordinator in Washington, and they're 4-1. Gee. I mean, you get this. Here's Eagle fan. So look at this. Hold on here. What do you say? Hurt sucks. Is that what you're saying? So Clint Hurt sucks. Tracy Rocker sucks. Brian Johnson sucks. Sean Desai sucks. Who else? Name a coach. They all suck. Maybe your players suck. Maybe your players suck. You ever think of that? Maybe your players suck. Justo, Sills, if Dallas beats Doodoo Browns, we will. Okay. I think this game's going to be a lot harder than you think because you're not good on defense. Your defense won't change. You're getting better people on offense. But will you run the ball? Or will you throw the ball still? You didn't pay $51 million to run the ball. You paid it to throw it. You have $150 million. No, let me think. How much do you have in 3 players? 36, 25, 51. You got 12. You got $111 million in 3 players. You got $111 million in 3 players. You're not paying to run the ball. Follow the money. You're paying for AJ, Devontae, and Hurts. $111 million. This is set up for disaster because he's not a quarterback to throw the ball. He's not good. He's great running it. Throwing it, he's below average. And he's showing you that. Doesn't it boggle your brains when you see this? They're taking him away from what made him that $51 million guy and trying to turn him into something he's not. And the turnovers are high. Eagles always ruin and put coaches where their players don't work out with what they are forced to do. I bet in Hurts's contract, they put in to change and run. No, they didn't put that in there, Jason. Okay? That's not going to be in there. That's something that's a prerequisite from the owner, and the owner wants it. Look at here. This fucking guy's trying to go tech. They gave that guy over the next 4 years an average of $25 fucking million. He's going to get that money. 36 to the other guy, 51. It's fucking 111. Stop with the semantics. It's $111 million. Whether you get it today or you get it tomorrow, it's $111 million. End of story. End of story. End of story. Holy shit. I know how contracts work, dickhead. I had one. Sills, I agree. Players need to man up and get better. But you played in a 4-man at the U, and we're switched to. I get all that. I get all that. Okay? 215. Some of these people are just ridiculous. Okay? Please hit the like button. Let's get to the topics here. Eagles, who had the most pressure on them coming out of the bye. Tell you what, if you're 2-2 over these next 4 games, hell's going to be paid. Someone gets fired at 4-4. Okay? Someone gets fired. Okay? What players have the most pressure on them coming out of the bye? I've got 7 Eagles that have the most pressure. 7 Eagles. Why would I want to talk about Josh Allen? Josh Allen is second right now in the MVP voting. Third, according to Vegas. Why would I talk about an MVP candidate versus the ultimate turnover machine in the NFL, Jalen Hurts, and losing? Sills, what does Hurts need to elevate his game? We need solutions in Philly. Remember in 22 when the coaches said Hurts was at the building 24/7. I never heard that anymore. Okay. Sills, if we lose to the Browns by, say, 2 scores, how soon before Sirianni's fired? I think they fire him Monday. I think Nick Sirianni could be fired Monday if they lose. Even if maybe they stumble. I don't know how that would look. And they win. I mean, I'm not even sure. Okay? I'm not even sure. I'm not. I got Bryce Huff, number 1. He has been the biggest disaster in Howie Roseman's free agency since he's been the glorified CPA general manager of the Philadelphia Eagles. He doesn't even look like a football player. He doesn't even look like one. I mean, it's mind-numbing how horrible he is. Hurts, Carter, Davis, Huff, Dean, all that pressure on them, as well as knee pad Nick. Dude, Bryce Huff doesn't even look like a football player. Last football game, he had 32 snaps, and he had 1 tackle. $18 million for a guy who can't play. For a guy you assumed would be a 3-down guy without any facts to back that up. Everybody in Philly thought he was good. He's younger, and his production that he had with the Jets was going to be something that was going to be transformational in Philly. I said never happened. Remember what one of my bold prediction was? I said he'd have 4 sacks this year. Xander was like, man, we better not see that. Well, I'm not sure he's going to get 4. He's got to show up Sunday. By the way, even if he shows up Sunday, gets you a sack and a half, you got a long road for the horrific football that you've played. But you know what you can start to say? Hey, it took Reddick about 6 games to get going in 22. And then he fucking took off. He was a milk carton guy. And then he took off. This has to be a kickoff game for him. Get this. DRC thinks that this is a big deal. AJ and Smitty are back. Come on, y'all. What happened in 23? You had those guys in the huddle, and you went 1-7. DRC. People keep saying the same thing, and they keep expelling it by going, that was 23. No, 23 is still giving you the same results in 24. You got the same results. Come on. You got the same results. Quarterback who's inconsistent turns the ball over, and you're wobbling and wins. Now you're not winning like you did. Now you're up and down. Same results until you're not showing the same signs of things that happened in 23. Remember what my number one thing that I hit the drum with the entire offseason was? Do you think all the issues of 2023 have been erased? All of you said, yeah. No, they haven't. No, they haven't. No, they haven't. You see him every game still in 24. You see him every game in 24. Okay? No way, Sills. Huff doesn't have the dog in him. He gets pushed around like a bitch, just like Nolan Smith. Bust, in my opinion. Both of them suck. Both of them are just terrible. Next guy, number 2. Jalen Hurts. Dude, how about this? I'll take this from Hurts. I don't care if you're 11 of 20 for 113 yards. Just don't turn the ball over. Hand the ball to Barkley. Take the ball out of Hurts' hands. Because he's not going to win you a game. It's going to be Barkley. Right now, Hurts is not winning you games. Barkley is. Go with the hot hand. Go with the hot hand. I mean, Jalen Hurts is going to lose you games. He's not going to win you games. Give it to Barkley. Barkley's the best player in the offensive huddle. You know why? Because Barkley's the guy who's the guy that keeps you in every game. Even when you don't have AJ. Even when you don't have Devontae. He keeps you in every game. Keeps you in every game. In my opinion, Jalen Hurts has regressed so bad, I don't know. He doesn't even resemble the player that I saw 2 years ago. I've never seen a guy fall off a cliff like this. Maybe once. He's the only other guy I can say that fell off a cliff like this. This guy's falling off a cliff. I mean, he's not even remotely a top 15 quarterback right now. Geno Smith's better. Baker Mayfield's better. I'm not even naming the elite guys. All those guys, Sam Darnold, they're all playing better. No one can deny that. I mean, no one. I mean, and the organization has to see it. You know, I wonder how the organization is watching this with all the money they spent in the offensive huddle. Think about it. I mentioned that you have 2 wide receivers that sign contracts that are going to pay them $25 million annually. You got another guy, 36. You got a running back that's making 10. You have a tight end making 15. What are your excuses on why this guy sucks so bad? Tell me. Nobody in pro football has more talent around him in the O-line and at the skill positions. What's the excuse here? A coach? Why has he regressed so bad? You know why? Because he was never the player that you thought he was in the beginning. And that's why it's not getting better. I mean, nobody in the league, nobody has the talent Jalen Hurts has. The problem is Hurts is not as talented as the rest of those guys in the league. But we'll see Sunday. You're going against Jim Schwartz. This will be a great test for Hurts. Hey, by the way, they're going to move Myles Garrett all around the offense like they do a little bit with Micah Parsons. I'd keep an eye on that dude. And I said last year Jim Schwartz had the number one defense in the league. They're a little suspect on stopping the run. Guarantee you they throw it and play right into Jim Schwartz's hands. You watch. They throw the ball. Sills, what do you think about your guy Josh Allen this week going 9-30? He'll turn it around. You know why? Greatness always does. My problem's not Josh Allen. My problem's the coaching up there too. Like your guy. When you make all your excuses. You don't throw the ball on the 1 yard line with your back to the end zone with a minute left in the game. Stop the clock 3 times. Fucking atrocious. And get this, he was 9-30 and he tied it up still. And I think should have went to overtime. As poorly as he played, they still tied it. And he has nobody. Nobody. Hurts was in that game against the Bucs. Here's how close that game was against Baker Mayfield. He's playing against C.J. Stroud. Game. Eagles were never in the Buck game. They were down 21. First 8 minutes of the game. 21. 3 and outs, 3 and outs, 3 and outs. Incomplete passes, overthrows. Guy stinks. Jaden dropped 34 last week. Watch Hurts drop 20 and get beat. Next guy. Hey, A.J. Brown's got heat on him. He's the savior. He's the savior. Hey, by the way, you know what the odds are in Vegas right now for the MVP award? Mahomes 1, Lamar Jackson 2, Stroud 3, Allen 4, Jaden Daniels 5, Sam Darnold 6, Brock Purdy 7, Joe Burrow 8, Kyler Murray 9, Dak Prescott 10. Where the fuck is Hurts? Allen's 4, 9 for 30. People in Vegas still think he's the 4th leading candidate to win the MVP award. How you doing? Bum juice. Hurts is dick juice. Boom. How you doing? Hey, A.J. Brown is a savior. He's a savior. Well, he better show up. I think he will. But will that be enough? Will that be enough? Come Sunday. 8.5. Give me the Browns. Woo! 8.5. I'll take it, Cleveland. Yes, sir, baby. I'll tell you what I'll do, senor. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll take that out of my mouth when you stop getting teabagged by Hurts then we'll call it a day. When all you guys that are Hurts lovers stop getting teabagged over Hurts and stop making excuses for him, I'll do that too. But until that day, Senor, continue to get teabagged by Hurts. How you doing? Yeah. Yeah. Hurts will show up. This talent is still in high school. You watch the Commanders and their players are flying around making plays, maximizing the talent. Just look at the Eagle players' body language. Yeah, those guys in Washington are having fun. Yeah, love going to work. Culture. Fun. Sills, would you say that Dak is a better quarterback than Hurts? Yeah, I would. Yeah, I would. Personally, I don't think that's close now. By the way, Kellen Moore had the number one offense in the NFL twice with Dak. You think you're going to be number one this year with all that talent? Do you? You think the Eagles are going to be number one in talent? Number one in total offense this year? You should be. You're paying for it. He had it twice in Dallas with Dak. Do you think he's going to be? He will be in the top 10, right? Top 5 easy. Okay. Okay. Can't wait to see this one. Number 4. I got Saquon Barkley. Eagles, who had the most pressure coming out of the bye. He's been the only star for the first 4 weeks in Philly. Offensively has been Saquon Barkley. No one else has starred. Our receivers haven't starred. The quarterback hasn't. Only one guy. It's been Saquon Barkley. He's been the only guy with all that money. Well, still, those guys were hurt. Hey, welcome to the NFL. Part of the deal. Goddard's had a game. All that talent. Well, 2 guys got hurt. Oh. So, welcome to the NFL. Barkley's got hey, holy shit. I'll make a point to you. Here, let me ask you this one here. What do you think will be a disastrous thing to the season? What will make the Eagles a non-500 team? The loss of Barkley or the loss of Hurts? Carter and Davis spent the bye at the buffet. Hey, who do you think the Eagles can't afford to lose more? Barkley or Hurts? I say Barkley. You lose Barkley, it's over. Your quarterback can't carry your team. And he won't last. And then they'll have to go back to running him. Hurts turnover-worthy plays. 22, 1.6%, 2024, 6.7%, which ranks him 33 of 35 quarterbacks. There's your number one reason why this team sucks. Let's leave that up there for a little bit. Look at that. There's only 32 teams. Hey, nasty. That's got to be one of the greatest stats of all time ever posted on the National Football Show. Fucking look at that. There's only 32 teams. He's 33 out of 35 quarterbacks. Good grief. Look at that. Yeah. Holy shit. That is amazing. What a statistic, nasty. Ah. Hey, what's this? Hey, nasty beats. That's a nasty statistic. You're just nasty. Yeah. Hey, I missed the super chat there by Anthony, I think, Xander. Without Barkley, we're 0-4. Completely agree. That was just nasty. Xander goes right back and posts that thing. Way to go, Xander. Let's just leave that up. Yeah, man. This guy's worse than even a backup quarterback right now in the league when it comes to worthy turnover plays. Look at that shit. What a nasty statistic. Look at nasty. Holy cow. Holy shit. Look at that thing. Let's let that thing resonate. Hurts' turnover-worthy plays in 22, 1.6%, which is probably tops in the league for the most effective. Now he's the worst. That's just nasty. It's just nasty. Oh, shit. He was second in 22. There you go. He was second in 22. Yeah. He's nasty. That's my boy Nasty. Nasty dropping some science today here, man. Guys, please hit the like button. Wow. Guys, turnover machine and losing now. Eagles, who had the most pressure coming out of the bye. Nick Sirianni could be fired Monday. I say that on October 4th. Nick Sirianni could be fired Monday if they lose to the Browns. Yet, knowing those guys, if they win by 1 point running the ball, he could be fired. Hey, how those guys operate, they could name Kellen Moore interim head coach. Exactly what they wanted anyway in the beginning. And they would get people out of, hey, I never thought about this. Why don't you fire Nick on Monday if that team looks like it's stumbling around? You'd have a play calling head coach, and you wouldn't have Nick parachuting in and changing plays and influencing play calls. Wouldn't it be a smoother operation if you got rid of him? Is it the best thing to fire him Monday? Shit, win or lose. Win or lose. Wouldn't it be better just to fire him? Get him out of the way. Do you think the Eagle front office is hoping the team struggles a little so they can can him? Now that Robert Saleh's been canned? I mean, they interviewed Kellen for the job versus Nick. Firing Sirianni doesn't fix the Howie problem. No. But it probably gives you a little more clarity in play calling because he'll be the head coach and he can make final decisions on what plays to be run. I think firing Nick Sirianni is the best thing they can do right now. Win or lose. Get him out of there. Give Kellen all the autonomy. Remember something. At the end of the day, when this guy starts talking to you about those fucking bullshit analytics and telling you why he makes those decisions, you can erase that and put that in Kellen's hands. Doesn't it make more sense to put it into the hands of the guy that Jalen Hurts trusts more? He doesn't even like Nick. Why not just blow him out now? Doesn't that completely make the most sense? Sirianni and Saleh starting Kumbaya podcast on Tuesday. Yeah. And don't worry, Saleh will be right there with you. Hey, you know what? Firing Sirianni doesn't fix the Howie problem. No, like I just said, though, Gunner. But what you do is take that one thing out that Nick says. Well, you know, how he applies the analytics and thinks that's what's best for the team. Well, you take that out and give him total control, Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore will have total control on what decisions are being made in the final 2 minutes of a game instead of having Nick parachute in. Nick's situation, decision maker is fucking terrible. Are you going to fix the Howie problem? You're never going to fix the Howie problem. You're never fixing the Howie problem. But you can manage the Howie problem. Hey, get this. Tom Brady was so great in New England. You know why? He knew how to manage Belichick and his ego. Give it to Brady. It was Brady who made that thing work. Because in the end, Belichick's ego got the best of him. And he proved it by winning a Super Bowl in Tampa. The one thing that Brady was better than Belichick at was managing his ego. Belichick can't manage his ego. Brady can. That's why he walks to Tampa and wins. He managed Belichick's ego in New England. He put up with the shit. He put up with the constant hounding. He put up with that because in the end, he knew that he wanted to be coach tough. And he wanted his team to be coach tough. Gave money back so other players could have an investment in the team and feel like they're enabled to win titles. Same thing Mahomes is doing in Kansas City. Same thing. That's fucking great, Jordan. I'd take a 44-year-old Tom Brady right now over Jalen Hurts. Hey, guys, help and donate in any way you can with our brothers and sisters and American family members going through hell with these hurricanes. Hollywood, absolutely. And I was forgetful at the top there, too. Hurricane Milton looks like it's going to be like the first hurricane to hit Tampa and Sarasota and Clearwater area since 1831. Haven't seen a direct hit like that in obviously decades and in centuries. And highways right now, I-75, I-4, 95, all of them are just asshole to elbow right now. And people trying to get out of there, people running out of gas, people running out of food. So really horrible, man. We send our prayers and everything to our great friends in Florida. I love that state so much. I've had almost all my great successes for me in my life in the state of Florida, college, professionally, and broadcasting wise, have all really been in Florida. And so I love that state. And that state's near and dear to my heart. Tampa, Orlando, Jacksonville, Tallahassee, not the place, the other place, but Miami, obviously South Florida. So we totally are all over it. I know that the Krauses have business dealings also down in Florida too. So state of Florida is really near and dear to our heart. Please hit the like button, guys. We really appreciate you guys coming aboard. I got Vic Fangio. Eagles do have the most pressure on them after the bye. It's a damn shame that Vic is in this conversation because this is really not an issue that Vic can fix. You know what's crazy? I hear people talking about Sidney Brown coming back. There's a 21-day window that they get to have him ramp up and potentially become part of the defense. Are you fucking crazy? He'll have no impact for at least a month and a half. This guy hasn't practiced. He hasn't even been in game tempo. Running around on the sidelines and on a treadmill versus playing in an NFL football game in 19 months. This guy has no shot at playing. And if he does, it'll be a mistake. What's the point? Practice him. Get him some contact. Put him on special teams. Get him involved. At the end of the day, you're not going to take a guy off a major knee injury and put him in a football game where he hasn't played in 19 months. Do you guys really think it's that easy to play in the NFL like that? Deshaun Watson missed 2 years of football. And he's never the same. You think you're going to put Sidney Brown, who's a lesser talent than Deshaun Watson, in a football game, who had limited experience as an NFL player anyway coming out of Illinois, and he's going to be what? Cam Chancellor? You're out of your minds. I mean, you're out of your mind. No, nobody. Dude, he wasn't that good when he was on the field. He overran plays, and he wasn't a tackler. He was a hitter. Thank you so much, Eli. I appreciate it. Sidney Brown can't tackle. He over-pursued. You guys forget that. Holy shit. Remember I kept saying, smoke a joint, kid. Slow the game down a little bit. Your pursuit angles aren't very good. He's a hitter. He was a hitter at Illinois. Reason he went in the third round. The guy's got great football instincts. He's an aggressive kid. But the reason he went in the third was because of what? He over-pursued. I mean, you saw it in his rookie year when he played. Holy cow, you guys have revised history. Because that's not what I saw when I watched that player play. I'm not saying he's bad by any stretch. Okay? I am not saying he's bad, and I think he's going to be a good player, but fucking pump the brakes on that. This guy is not Brian Dawkins. You're out of your fucking minds. Dude, Cooper DeJean's not even up to speed. And now you think a guy who missed 18 months because of a knee injury is going to be ready to play like he's Brian Dawkins or Cam Chancellor. You're out of your minds. Out of your minds. Did you watch Sidney Brown last year? Can't cover and misses tackles. Dude, don't say that in here. They'll call you a liar, Troy. Troy, the one thing he did is that, you know what he did? He has a radar, and he can get to the point of attack. He knows how to track. He's good at tracking. Guy, he's got good angles. And he's a good hitter. Tackling ain't his forte. Anybody who fucking says that did not watch him play his rookie year. He over-pursued and missed tackles. I mean, name me a game where you remember he was a phenomenal tackler in. I must have missed that one. The Eagles led the NFL last year. I think they were either 1 or 2 in missed tackles, and he was part of it. Wow. Hey, I know you're desperate, but don't at least sound it. Okay? Don't sound it. You're blowing a kid up and putting expectations on a kid that's about a month and a half away from being an impact player. Doesn't matter who starts on this defense. Fangio's scheme is outdated and doesn't fit any other player skill sets. Completely true. Completely true. He's a very energetic player. Correct. Okay? That energy needs guidance. Correct. Then maybe he could become a solid safety. Hey, wait a minute. Forrest, I'm not saying he can't become an elite safety. That's not what I'm saying here. Give him a bet. Like we're giving Quinyon Mitchell. I'm not saying he can't be elite. Look, I like energy. I like hard hitters. He's got to work on his tackling, and he's got to work on wrapping up. Okay? And he's got to learn to fit in this scheme, in this zone defense. I'm not saying he can't. That's not what I'm saying. You're implying that I'm saying that. By the way, anybody who was drafted out of that Illinois program back in the day, do you guys know who evaluated him and was a talent scout and was the guy who brought him in to Champaign? Do you know who that coach was that brought him and that kid what's his name? Gonzalez? Not Gonzalez, the other kid. Witherspoon. Witherspoon and Sidney Brown. Do you know who brought those into Champaign-Urbana? That's right, Chip and Birds. Lovie Smith. And who did Lovie Smith coach? Rondé Barber and John Lynch. He was a secondary coach in Tampa for Monty Kiffin, and that's when they had Tomlin and all them guys there. Lovie knows talent. He's a talented kid. Lovie recruited him. I like him. That's right. That's not what I'm saying here. He's got a lot of work to do. Dude, do you know how hard it is to play secondary in today's NFL with 55 or 60 passes being thrown? Dude, you could have a hell of a game and give up one pass on the 50th play of the game, and you get beat. And people go, that guy got toasted. And you're like, no, he didn't. What about the other 45 plays? He shut everybody down. It is so much harder today to play in the secondary. The game is so much more in space. I mean, back in the day, you didn't have that kind of space because you had running backs who dominated the league, getting 25, 30 carries. Those days are gone. Games played in space today. Lovey's a great defensive coach. So how many picks you predicting for Hurts Sunday? 2. Why not? He averages 2 turnovers now a game. Why not? I'm noticing that the quarterbacks are staying away from Quinyon. That's not what happened in that Buck game. They were targeting him. Hard to play defense when your front office does nothing. Those 2 first-round DTs must perform up to expectations. Absolutely. Eli's a brand new member. Hear me out, Big Sales. Front office does not want to fire Sirianni. If they do, and it still doesn't work, all eyes Hurts is actually the problem instead of using Nick as a scapegoat. So you're saying, Eli, they keep Nick around to soften the blow for people to look at it as a Jalen Hurts issue. I don't think that's how that front office works, man. I think they like scapegoats. They scapegoated Andy. They scapegoated Doug. They scapegoated Brian Johnson. They scapegoated Sean Desai. They scapegoat every assistant coach. Coaches are their scapegoats. It's really not the players. The only player that's been a scapegoat in Philadelphia in the last 10 years has been Carson Wentz. How he had to make a decision. And the reason why it's going to be tough to move off of Wentz, or Hurts, is because that means that they would have failed on 2 quarterbacks. That's why this has to work. It has to work. Seals, you thought Nick wasn't calling plays. We said it. Hey, Chip and Birds. No, what was told to us in the preseason was that Nick wasn't going to have any say. As the season's gone on, Nick says he does. So they were lying to us in the preseason. Seals, if the Eagles had good coaching, I got them blowing out the 1993 absolutely not. That Dallas Cowboys 93 team was not only 25 years old with all those young players on it, and 26 years old, those guys. They had a tremendous O-line, the greatest running back in pro football history, had a Hall of Fame wide receiver, you had a Hall of Fame coach, you had a defensive coordinator that won 3 Super Bowls. Never happened. That Cowboy team was one of the greatest assembled teams of all time. Their second team was great. It's one of the deepest teams of all time. Your team is not deep. Your defense sucks. That defense wasn't. Do you know the Cowboy team was the youngest team in the league when they won their first Super Bowl? No, Dallas had Barry Sanders? No, they had the all-time leading rusher in pro football history. That's who they had. And by the way, I'll take Emmett over Barry any day. Any day. Was he flashier? No. Did he ever have minus plays? No. Did Barry? Always. Always. Emmett was 5 yards, 10 yards, 8 yards, 9 yards, 10 yards, 13 yards. You look up, he's got 28 carries and 154 yards and 2 touchdowns. I mean, Emmitt Smith had 10,000 rushing yards in high school at Escambia High in Pensacola, Florida. Goes to Florida, has 4,000 in 3 years. And then he has 18,000 with the Cowboys. I mean, by the way, you could say all you want that Emmett's not the best. His numbers prove he is. And he's got 3 Super Bowls. And he has an MVP. Show me someone else that did that. Name me one. Name me one. He's the all-time leading rusher, which will never be broken. Emmitt Smith's 18,000 yards will never be touched because they don't run the ball like that. Never. Nobody will ever say they're the all-time leading rusher with 3 Super Bowls, a MVP in the league. And I think, was he a Super Bowl MVP? Come on, man. He's the most accomplished running back in pro football history. Ever. Perry obliterates Smith where? On what metric? What metric? It's not winning. It's not yards. It's not championships. It's not MVPs. It's not Super Bowl MVPs. Hey, just because you may think he's more talented, Aaron Rodgers is more talented than Brady. But Brady's more accomplished. See how that works in the NFL? You may think someone has the most talent. It's all about resume, though, in the league. Okay? It's all about resume. Talent? This guy says that Barry Sanders had more talent. Well, it's a damn shame that talent never fulfilled its prophecy then, because he doesn't have the resume anywhere near Emmitt Smith. Well, let's not forget something. The same old line was in Dallas prior to Emmitt getting there. And they won 4 games. They were all Landry guys. I don't care what the fuck you say. Played 10 years, 9 years. Emmitt's the most accomplished running back in pro football history. That's not a debate. That's not a debate. And by the way, Jay Brown, there are no what ifs. This is facts. All-time leading rusher, 3 Super Bowls, a Super Bowl MVP, an NFL MVP. That's not what if. That's fact. That's facts. Herschel did better. Herschel won 4 games. He won 4 games. I mean, what are you arguing? Resumes? There's not a running back in pro football history that has a better resume at running back than Emmitt Smith. Nobody. Jim Brown, Barry, Curtis Martin, Frank Gore, OJ. No one. Nobody. Nobody. Get this. This guy's calling me a homer for giving you the facts. He's the all-time leading rusher with 18,000 yards. He's got 3 Super Bowl titles. He's got a league MVP and a Super Bowl MVP. And that's being a homer? Dickerson just didn't get a Super Bowl. Emmett's got more rushing yards than him. More championships. More MVPs. What are you talking about? Hey, that's right. Next topic, because you know why? You can't dispute facts. How many people in here think Barkley's better than Emmett? He was pretty good, though. He was a 2,000-yard rusher. I like that kid from Tennessee. Okay? I like that kid, man. I liked him a lot, actually, Jamal Lewis. I thought he was fucking great. Okay? I thought he was a good player, man. Let me ask you this about your coordinators. By the way, Xander's going to join us at 3:30. By your metrics, get this, by your metric, Nolan Smith is better on the D-line than you, Sills. What metric is that? I wasn't the 30th player taken. I was the 51st player taken. I was a second rounder. What are you talking about? And at least I show up in a stat sheet. And the only reason Nolan Smith is on the team is because how we drafted him. He stinks. Seals, the only running back that I thought had a shot at getting close to Emmett's record was Adrian Peterson. 2 knee injuries hurt him in the end. Okay? Put Emmett on Detroit and what happens? This is the dumbest argument. Because prior to Emmett getting to Dallas was 1-15 and 7-9. And then when Emmett got there, they went on and won championships. It's fucking dumb. They were 1-15 prior to Smith getting there. Then they were 7-9, and then Emmett showed up. Changes I would make on the Birds D. Cornerbacks Mitchell and Rogers. Free safety CJ. No way. Gardner Johnson sucks. Brown, I would not put him. He's not. Your safety position dude, Gardner Johnson and Sidney Brown, you put them against Cleveland. Those are not very good players right now. Blankenship at linebacker. Hey, what is this, Madden? Sills, what's your assessment of Peyton? I played against him in his final game in Tampa Stadium, and he was a shell of himself. But I'll tell you one thing he could do. He could fucking block. Walter Payton and Jared Payton played at Miami, by the way, his son. So I got a chance to know Walter and Jared very well. And solid guy, just super. Probably the second or third greatest running back in pro football history. Walter Payton. There's a guy to play with nobody. And the team got good as he was getting worse. Or older, I should say. Peyton carried that team. The year he got to 275 yards versus the Vikings, there was nobody on that team. He had a quarterback by the name of Bob Avellini. I mean, Walter Payton was a spectacular player. Emmitt Smith was the very best, the one and only. You say the line was terrible before Smith. Is Troy Aikman in the Hall of Fame? So obviously the line got better regardless of the running back. The entire fucking offensive line was drafted by Tom Landry. They won 4 games in Tom Landry's final year, and the entire O-line was the same, except for Stepnoski. No. No, the first year they got there, the entire O-line. By the time Emmett played, Stepnoski was taking center. He had taken over for Rafferty. And I think they had moved in a new guard. Larry Allen wasn't there yet. Talk to me. I was there for it. Serious, where do you rank Bo Jackson? My favorite of all-time running backs. I played against him in college at Auburn, and I played against him in the pros. He's the greatest athlete I've ever seen. I've never in my life seen an athlete like Bo Jackson. I mean, remarkable. Now, for me, the best running back that I played against was Eric Dickerson. Eric Dickerson was spectacular. Please tell me when Detroit was very good with Sanders. Tell me when the Cowboys were good prior to Emmett getting there. And when Emmett wasn't signed, the Cowboys went 0-2. You forget that, Jay Quest? And that's when they had all that talent. Emmett held out. They started the season out actually 0-3. They signed him, they won the Super Bowl, and he was a Super Bowl MVP that year. Nick needs to go along with what everyone says. We look like last year's team that fell apart. Too much talent not to be blowing teams out. Original Kilo, you don't have talent on defense. Your defensive lack of talent is affecting your offense. Okay? Sills, I love your show, but you have to give Hurts and Howie more credit. Howie's probably be watching, so chill. Joker, I give Howie no credit except for cutting great contracts. Here's my assessment of Howie Roseman. He gets in the way. He has no eye for talent. He's a great contract negotiator. And he believes that he has to have his hands in everything when you don't. The key to a great CEO type coach and GM is to get out of the fucking way. Trust the people you hire to do their jobs. I can't tell you how the difference here at JAKIB compared to every other sports place I've ever worked, and I've worked at numerous ones, is that as soon as you're hired, they want to immediately change your show. And I always say, why hire me? You're not going to make me better. I'm not saying you don't have suggestions. I'm saying, why don't you at least let me get my show going? That's not how it works in broadcasting. The more money you get and the more money you make, the more influence they want to have. Because you know why? It's just like the Eagle front office. Jalen Hurts, the reason they gave him all that money, now Howie and Jeffrey want to have more of an influence with him. Before, when he was making $1.5 million, they weren't in his way because he wasn't making anything. They weren't even sure he was the guy. But all of a sudden, when they gave him the money, what happened? They got in the way of him and Wentz. That's what happens when executives start to invest and give you more money. They want more control of you, and they want more say over the direction of where you're going with your career, instead of just letting you play it out and trust you that you'll believe in the process that's in front of you. You know how the Eagles say they have a process? No, they don't. No, they don't. And if it is the process, their process is once we give you money, we want to influence you to a point where they change your game. Look at what they did with Bryce Huff. Bryce Huff is the poster child of what's wrong with your Eagle organization when it comes to development of players. You don't develop players. Smitty was already developed. A.J. Brown was misused in Tennessee. Barkley didn't have the talent around him. They're not developing those guys. Those guys came in as ready-made talented guys that were going through certain situations. Tennessee throwing and giving A.J. Brown 68 catches a year is atrocious. When you know the kind of player that he is, totally underutilized in that Derrick Henry offense. Okay? Smitty was a developed wide receiver coming out of Alabama. Alabama produces tremendous wide receivers for today's NFL, them and LSU. That wasn't a reach. Barkley was underutilized because the Giants don't have good O-line and they don't have good talent. What player on the team have they developed? Mulata, Landon, Lane, and now Cam. You know why? Because your best coach is developing them. You don't have a whole crew of Jeff Stoutlands. I mean, look at Bryce Huff. You tried when you gave him $18 million. What's the first thing you did? You tried to change him into a 3-down player, which he's not. Why would you do that when you knew he wasn't that in New York? Because you thought you were better than the room. You thought you knew more than everybody else. Okay? You thought you were going to strike magic like you did with AJ, that he was just misused in New York, and it backfired on you. Not everybody's misused. And by the way, New York didn't have Derrick Henry. You know, you kind of give that Tennessee group a kind of pass because you had the greatest running back in the last 10, 15 years in the league, and Derrick Henry. It's a Henry offense. He did carry to the AFC Championship game. So you kind of give it the pass there. Hey, they didn't use AJ in Tennessee, right? Okay, you kind of get it because they had Henry. But in New York, they weren't winning games. Sills, how much pressure is on the Eagles to win Sunday? Cowboys, Commanders, and Giants all killed the Browns. If we only win by less than 10, failure. Jameson, that's a big game on Sunday. I'm taking the 8.5 in the Browns. I think they're going to feel it Sunday. I'm not saying you're going to lose, but I think the pressure is going to massively on you because the coach is going to feel it. The coach is going to feel it, and he is going to make sure that everyone in the locker room knows he's under pressure. And the players know that. Get this. Isn't it crazy? They're going to come out of the bye, and the pressure in the locker room is to make sure they don't look horrible against the Browns and they win because the coach could be fired Monday. Don't need to develop. Draft players that are ready. Sign mercenaries and win. That's the current NFL model. Last teams that won that weren't dynasties, 2 of them, they use that model. New England and Kansas City doesn't use the mercenary model. They draft and develop. I mean, they draft and develop. And they sign certain free agents that they need. Hey, how about this? Let me show you the difference with Kansas City and Philly signing free agents. Kareem Hunt's career over. Well, not so fast. Last night he looked great. Juju Smith-Schuster, career's over. They need a receiver. Goes to Kansas City. I don't know. Is it just me? Or is everybody's career that's out of gas? They have none left. They go to Kansas City to get what? Rejuvenated? I mean, I think Kareem Hunt gave him a nice little jump last night. I'm not saying he's Pacheco. That was pretty good last night. Sills, I still believe Hogs and Riggins' offense can win a Super Bowl smash mouth, but the pundits say, no, what do you say? Oh, we're going to find out this year with that Ravens offense because they're number 1 in the NFL in rushing. And if they are going to win the Super Bowl, they got to do the one thing against Kansas City. And they're built to beat everybody but KC because they get out of their minds and they start throwing the ball 40 times. If Lamar Jackson throws the ball against Kansas City 25 times and they run the ball the rest, they'll beat them. They'll beat them. So if Kansas City has the best quarterback in the league, he makes players better, something Hurts can't do. Angelo, that's true. But that defense is also player development. I mean, he drafts guys and develops them. Hey, dude, am I right? Is that kid from Purdue? Is that kid from Purdue on that Kansas City team? Did I see that guy from Purdue? Do you understand that that guy was a situational pass rusher with the Boilermakers? And Steve Spagnuolo has developed him into being an edge rusher now. And he's one of the better edge rushers in the AFC. Spags was zero blitzing like an MFer last night. He had no respect for their receivers. I mean, dude, it's a good football team. And it's good on defense. Califactus, this kid, I was like, that guy's a situational pass rusher. Of course, he goes to Steve Spagnuolo. Steve Spagnuolo fits a role for him and develops a role. Here's the difference between Steve Spagnuolo and Howie. Howie signed Bryce Huff to fit Vic's scheme. Steve Spagnuolo and Brett Veach drafted the kid from Purdue and developed him into a defensive end who's going to be there for the next 10 years. I don't think was he a first rounder? Was he at the bottom of the first? Hey, so let me get this right. In the last 2 years, the Kansas City Chiefs have picked what? 32? They've got Galifactus and now they've got Xavier Worthy. Am I right? And what's Howie done in his drafts? Hey, Quignat looks good. Okay. Think about that. Every guy they draft, even guys in the 6th round like Pacheco, are turning out to be studs. Galifacus was middle lock 20s. I don't remember the Kansas City Chiefs picking in the 20s. They were did they move? They may have moved up. They may have moved up. Whoa, 8.5 on Sunday. Good grief, 8.5. Big